Hey guys, it's Victoria with Nutrition by Victoria, and I just finished my workout, so I signed up for a basketball game the day after Christmas. I used to play. I played in high school and I played in college. So I figured, I better amp up the running a little bit just so I don't get too winded playing. I'm not too concerned about like shooting and dribbling and like the skills involved because it's kind of like muscle memory. But the endurance part, I really want to make sure that I'm not winded on the court. So I did a 3 mile on my treadmill in a little under 32 minutes, which is pretty good. My left hip is still feeling pretty wonky. Just from like the relaxin', and I think it took a beating when I was birthing the baby too, because I didn't have issues with my left hip prior. So it's just gonna take some time and stretching. So I look like a hot mess because I just finished working out, and then I always do 30 minutes on my spin bike after a run to help cool down and flush out some lactic acid. So it helps to negate any kind of soreness. And then while I was on my spin bike, I pumped out 5 ounces of liquid gold here. I just used my little hand pump. So this goes on here, and then I just put it on here, pump like that, and squeeze at the same time, and it helps to get all the milk out. And it sounds like my little man is waking up, and then I'll talk to you guys about how to increase your milk supply. Alrighty, here's my big buddy. He is gonna be 3 months tomorrow. And he's the size of a 6-month-old. So breastfeeding, vegan breastfeeding works wonders. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about how to increase your milk supply. So he is my 3rd child that I'm breastfeeding. And with my other 2, I never had the extra supply that I have now. I think that was due to a few reasons. With my first, I didn't pump at all, and I should have, because I definitely had like mastitis early on because I didn't get enough of that milk out early. So that is one of the things too that you want to like. Usually you make the most milk like right off the bat, especially because the baby is nursing very frequently. So you want to pump out the extra, and that helps to build your supply. And then secondly, actually with my 2nd child, I was tandem nursing. So I can't remember how long I did that for. I think I did it for at least a year. So my toddler at the time was getting my oversupply because I never pumped with my 2nd either, and that's probably because I was producing milk for 2. My toddler was 2, so my oldest was 2 at the time. My 2nd was born, and I nursed her until she was about 3.5. Yes. And I nursed my 2nd until she was almost 4. So this guy, I just know what I'm doing a little bit more this time around. So as soon as I started having issues with engorgement, I started pumping out the milk. And then ever since then, I've had an oversupply of, I pump out an extra 4 to 5 ounces almost every day. Some days I can get away with not pumping it out, but most days I have to pump it out because one of my breasts just end up a lot bigger than the other, or it's too full, so it's leaking, so I gotta pump that milk out. So the biggest tip with producing or having like an oversupply of milk is to regularly direct nurse. Let them cluster feed, let them use the breast to pacify themselves. Don't give them a pacifier. Don't rely on bottles. Don't rely on pumping for the majority of their feedings. He gets at maximum like 1 bottle every few days, and it's not from me, it's from somebody else who's watching him, usually my mom or my husband. But mostly my oversupply ends up in the freezer. The other thing that I can say about having an extra supply, which I like having an extra supply this time around. It's like a backup, you know, if anything happens to me, or if I just need somebody to watch him because I need to do something. I don't plan on tapping into my freezer stash of milk until he's probably like 6 months old, and I feel comfortable like leaving him a little bit longer with my mom. Right now I only leave him for like 30 minutes to go for a bike ride, maybe 40 minutes, and one bottle, you know, is sufficient during that time. But once he turns 6 months, he can start eating baby food, and you know, I can just leave him for longer because he'll be at a different developmental stage. But within the first 6 months, I really focus on direct nursing as much as possible, and that impacts my supply long term too. So if you're interested in doing extended breastfeeding, it's really important to do the majority of your feedings early on directly. So then, because it really establishes the foundation for your milk supply long term. I've seen that for people who are women who pump mostly versus directly feed, their milk supply doesn't last as long. So they're just not able to nurse as long. And, you know, that could be a personal preference to just not nurse like I do, like until I feel like the baby, you know, is ready to just be off of it completely, because I've never had to supplement with formula or anything. And if you do stop nursing after the first year, you still do need to supplement the child with something. So I just, you know, continue to use breast milk, and I've always been able to directly feed until my child is completely done with nursing. So I've never like dried up, and my hormones have always, you know, been pro breastfeeding. Like I remember going in with Violet, still nursing, and she was about 4 years old, and my prolactin level was so elevated from the nursing that I wasn't able to get pregnant actually, because the breastfeeding was inhibiting that from happening. So just really interesting stuff with nursing. But the last thing that I want to say is that if you really want to build your supply, is to eat an unlimited amount of carbohydrates every day. That's what I do, and I believe that that's this other reason why I can make so much milk now, because I am packing it in every day. I eat as much sweet fruit, sugar, and starches as I want every day. I mostly eat, you know, bananas and dates right now. I drink a lot of apple juice. I love Sour Patch Kids. I add sugar to my smoothies and to my fruit if it's not sweet enough. And I love to eat a big pot of white rice at the end of the day. So you can check out my What I Eat in a Day videos to see what I eat to support my massive breast milk production to create this large child. But it's also in my genetics to make, you know, tall, bigger kids. So that's something to keep in mind as well. But the last thing I want to say is that by eating a lot of carbohydrates, you actually keep your cortisol levels normal too. So cortisol is a hormone that helps us deal with stressful situations, but it also can interfere with our ability to produce milk if it is chronically elevated. So chronically elevated cortisol can happen when you're sleep deprived. It can happen from using caffeine, and it can happen when you don't eat enough carbohydrates every day. So if you're dealing with if you're trying to increase your supply, or you're trying to or if your supply is just dropping, think about, you know, how maybe cortisol might be impacting your milk supply. And you know, there's not a whole lot you can do about sleep deprivation when it comes to these little ones. I do like a hybrid like co-sleep, and I find that that works really well for me to be able to get enough sleep. But when I was in the really early stages with him, like you know, now he's going to be 3 months, but in the first like 8 weeks, I would say that I would just eat a lot of carbohydrates to help with the cortisol, and it really has allowed my body to like shed the pregnancy weight quickly. And just feel really good during the day, and not, you know, stressed out or anything like that. So definitely something to keep in mind. But to wrap this video up, to have an abundance of breast milk, you just want to make sure you're direct feeding as much as possible. Don't use a pacifier, don't use a bottle, don't exclusively pump. Let them directly nurse. Let them nurse to pacify themselves, and it will really build your supply. If you have too much milk going on, pump it out and freeze it. Yeah, make sure that you're eating enough carbohydrates every day. Follow that sweet tooth. Honor the sweet tooth. I also like to add a lot of low sodium soy sauce to my dinners, because I find that that extra sugar and salt really aids in hydration levels, and helps to produce a lot of milk as well. And then of course staying hydrated. Don't let yourself get thirsty. Always have a water bottle nearby so that you can sip it throughout the day. I do find that if I don't keep my water bottle nearby, I will get thirsty. So yeah, so sleep, water, sugar for managing cortisol levels, rest when you can, and direct feed as much as possible. Okay, leave any comments or questions down below, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.